So hello there and welcome to this week's video. Today I'm going to be talking about red flags and how to spot them. So let's dive right in. Now, many of you have dialed in and asked me, are there any early signs that signal you may not be happy with the person that you are dating? So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you see a red flag? It could be by the road, by the beach. Caution. Alert someone about the potential danger or the trouble that lies ahead, right? Maybe you need to be elsewhere, not where you currently are. Let me tell you something. Red flags in a relationship are cautionary. They're not necessarily deal breakers. But if they are not resolved, then they can become deal breakers or potential destroyers of the relationship. Now, with the wide open dating landscape that's available to everyone through the social media, there is absolutely no dearth of options to choose from. The result? Loss of focus. You don't spot those red flags immediately. Now, it's perfectly healthy to have disagreements in a relationship. But what is important here is to understand, how do you treat those disagreements? How do you resolve them? Do they keep lingering on, or are they repeated behaviors in the relationship, in the partnership? Now, while there are n number of red flags that I could point or put my finger on, I'm today going to highlight the 5 most important ones in my diary. Now, here's a disclaimer. This video is for both sexes. It's not just limited to either male or female. It's for both men and women. So as we go on, let me highlight the first one. Overtly jealous or possessive behavior. Now, before you enter a relationship, it is very important for you to understand and know well that your partner is an intrinsic part of other relationships as well. He has a relationship with his parents, siblings, friends, colleagues. So whilst your relationship is important, it's not the only relationship that you should have. So stop making it out to be that it is the only one. Now, on the other hand, if he or she is limiting your movement and draws the line on who you need to hang out with, or if your significant other restricts you or pressurizes you to, let's say, deal with only female gym trainers or masseurs, and primarily that is against your nature, or asks you to disconnect with your male or female friends or office colleagues, now that's a red flag for jealousy and control. Don't let a partner limit where you can go or control who you can hang out with. New dates find it sometimes very cute when the partner pulls you closer, when another dude passes by, or I've heard young ones say, oh, he loves me so much, he just wants my attention all the time, he calls me up 20 times a day, he loves to know where I'm going, he really makes me feel amazing and validated all the time, and I find this so cute. Look, I get this, but you need to keep your eyes open on this. It's not cuteness overload, it's dangerous overload. So jealousy is often written off as normal in a relationship, but it isn't always something to brush off. There's a great difference between being possessive and being obsessed. So jealousy and controlling behavior is often construed as romantic when it clearly is not the case. Jealousy looks great, guys, in the Bollywood or in Hollywood movies or whatever. But in real life, it's super, super, super toxic. And if you let it go, that's a red flag dropped right there. Let's move on to the second red flag. And this is when your significant other has a poor relationship with the parents. Sometimes even badmouths them, or even has decided to disconnect with them completely. Ever heard of a saying, how a man treats his mother is an indicator of how he will treat his wife? Now, there are exceptions, of course, but for the most part, I believe the statement to be true. There's nothing more repulsive than a partner who doesn't respect or show love to his parents. This isn't just about relationships with one parents. It's more about the extent to which you can know another's mind and another's heart. As children, we might have had a hard time with our parents, but straighten your guard when he or she is disrespectful, when he or she is ungrateful or unkind to the parents who have given birth to him, who have nurtured him and created a space in the world today. And these negative sentiments are projected for one's own parents. How do you think you would be treated as time passes by? A red flag to take note of right there. Now the third one is, and this is an important one, when he starts calling his ex a psycho or crazy and criticizes her. The way he talks about his or her ex is how he will talk about you in the future. Now keep a close watch and listen very carefully on how your new lover describes the previous breakups. If you're observant, you will learn a lot about how this person is likely to treat you in the future. So be wary of criticism, blame, bad mouthing of the old flame. See, non-resolution of past relationships or talking way too often for that matter of the ex also is an alarming sign. It's a red flag, and especially if this includes consistently blaming the other for all of the problems that have happened in the previous partnership. Now that's a terrible sign that something is wrong right there. We all take equal part in a relationship, from falling in love to making those errors, those mistakes. And taking responsibility in the relationship is being able to admit, look, I messed up, or I fell short of expectations, or whatever it is. It is important, very important. And if he or she cannot take the responsibility for their own life, then be confident and certain that ultimately he will not take responsibility for you. There's no saying that history could not repeat itself, and tomorrow you could end up being that crazy ex. So look out for the closest exit in that case. Moving on to the fourth red flag. How he or she treat those below their own status. And this is a big indicator. Watching interactions with others gives super great insight into the personality and into your own future. Now let's look at a scenario here. You're on a date at your favorite restaurant, and she has a surprise dinner that she has pre-ordered. Your favorite meal. And the server messes up the order, and what is served is not what she ordered. All of a sudden, you see there's this storm, negative talk, and accusations flying around, even penalizing the waiter by reporting the misdeed to the manager. So, after some time, the storm settles in, and a while later, she's back in your space, romantic and cute as ever. After a while, you both leave the restaurant, and the guard is not to be seen. She has another surprise waiting for you, your much-awaited movie, and you're getting late for it. What does she do? Gets out of the car and stops back into the restaurant, looking out for the guard. Repeat behavior, more threats, accusations, and negative talk, even promising never to return back to that restaurant. Sits back in the car, puts her arms around you, and apologizes for the mishaps. Does this episode tell you something? Watch out for how this person treats house help, service staff, or anyone who they feel has a lower status than them. People who they don't need to impress because they are paying these people already for their services. But guess what? That behavior may be a constant with certain groups of people, and as the relationship progresses, eventually you will become that person that they do not need to impress. So look, while getting upset is justifiable, stirring up a storm, accusations, bad mouthing, negative comments, they are not justifiable acts by any standards. If they are unkind and rude to that waiter or even to the guard when a small mistake is committed, be sure several notches into the relationship, when you make a mistake and the need to impress has waned out, you will likely receive that same treatment. Inconsistency in behavior and actions is a red flag you need to watch out for. And lastly, have you ever heard of something called intuition? And you know where I'm getting at now. If your gut tells you there's something wrong, then you need to listen to it and you need to trust it. Steve Jobs once said that intuition is more powerful than intellect. Now, if your gut tells you something is wrong, do listen to it. Your gut allows you to make decisions when you don't know all of the facts. Your intuition is like your own personal North Star. So red flags, as I said, may not necessarily be deal breakers. But if you catch sight of any one of these red flags, the first step is voice them clearly and early on in the partnership. Highlight them based on wisdom and maturity. And if you see change, it might just be a savior. But if your partner seems unwilling to work on changing them, it might be better to cut your losses and move on. So many people do recognize red flags, but they try to ignore them in the hope that marriage is going to fix them. It's super tempting to overlook these flags when you are head over heels in love, especially in that case. And you end up psyching yourself into the belief that you're just being overly critical. After all, it's not really a red flag. Please address them. See them flip or take a call. Red flags don't go anywhere if they are left unaddressed. They just end up becoming your permanent challenge in the long run. More often than not, the final decision of whether you want to stay in the relationship or whether you want to walk out, call it a day, this is a decision you have to take. It's up to you. But bear in mind that the longer you drag that relationship, the more difficult the breakup is going to be. So we will take on some more red flags in the next video. And until then, have a super duper week ahead.